This week on VolleyDons Weekly, we'll bring in star head coach Ryan Rock Parat, and we'll talk about our two losses, unfortunately, to Lewis University in 3 sets and Loyola University in 4 sets over the last weekend. We'll also get the chance to talk with graduate assistant coach Beth Howard with her experiences here in Fort Wayne and what she's looking forward to the rest of her career. Finally, we'll talk with Coach Parat about a season wrap-up. We'll talk about our sponsors, we'll talk about how the season went overall, and we'll talk about the conference playoffs coming up soon on VolleyDons Weekly. Hi everybody and welcome to VolleyDons Weekly. I'm your host and assistant coach J.W. Kiekefer. With me to my left we have the star, the face of the franchise, head coach Ryan Rock Parat. And then farther over to my left, for the first time all year, we welcome graduate assistant coach Beth Howard to the show. And a quick thank you to our sponsors, Alco, Active Ankle, ASICS, Glenbrook Dodge, and The High Place. Coach Rock and our fantastic assistant coach Beth Howard, how are you all doing today?
Doing great, JW. Glad to be here. It's
been a long day today. We had player meetings today, and then we ran over here, so it's been a long day.
I didn't run. I walked.
Well, we're both very much shorter than you, so your stroll is probably a run for us at this point.
Yeah, I definitely sprinted here.
Oh, that's probably true.
Is it probably true? Because the 6'7" strides you take are much longer than my 6'1" strides and Beth's 5'2" strides. So it creates a little bit difficulty.
This is going to be a fascinating show.
It will be a very fascinating show, that's for sure.
It will.
This is coming to you without commercial interruption. Is that true?
No, we are going to do commercials because there would be a screw up by me probably at some point. This is why we need commercials. You know, the host needs some time to recuperate and rest himself.
We just got to make sure that Beth watches her language.
Okay.
This is cable television, by the way.
Good to know. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you.
So she can be a little bit more. With cable, she's not on network television, so she can have a little bit more leeway because it's cable television.
That's right. This is not HBO though. This is YouTube.
Good to know.
Okay.
Thank you,
ladies and gentlemen. We played 2 matches this weekend, one against Lewis University and the first one against Loyola University on Thursday at Arnie Ball Court. Coach, talk a little bit about our performance on Thursday against Loyola.
Well, after the slow first set, where we couldn't serve or pass the volleyball, I thought we competed pretty well. I mean, they really took it to us, the opening set. For some reason, I think our team thought the match was going to start on a Friday as opposed to a Thursday. Because we absolutely got shelled from the get-go. We slowly worked our way into the second set with some good performance. But I thought the third set was the best set that we played. We made a switch to put Scott McNerney into the starting lineup and play, and I thought he did an unbelievable job with his ball control and timely out-of-system attacking. I thought our serving got better. And with the fact that we're able to ball handle, it made Michael Keegan's job as our setter really good. And our offense clicked. And we ended up winning that third set against Loyola. Unfortunately, we couldn't sustain it in the fourth set, even though that was a seesaw affair. I think we lost 25-22. We just couldn't make defensive plays when you need to. And Loyola's a much bigger team than we are at the net, especially with Jeff Jendrick. They're 6'10" middle. But I thought we competed pretty well, considering the fact that I didn't think we served and passed to the level that we needed to really beat Loyola.
Beth, Rock talked a little bit about Scott McNerney's role in this volleyball team, especially against Loyola. He thought he did a really good job, and so did I. So talk a little bit about why you think he kind of helped the team out in that third set and the fourth set, and why we might have been better with him in there.
Yeah. Well, Scott is a guy that comes in and immediately brings energy to the court no matter what position he's playing, libero, outside. So I thought it was a really smart move to bring Scott in. He brought that energy and set a little fire under the guys, and we were able to come back and win that third set. Like Rock said, it was our best set for sure that we played. And
his normal position for this year has been the libero spot for him this year, so difficult transition for him to move to the left side and really make a difference. Why do you think he's able to do that as a volleyball player, be able to go from position to position, Rock? What do you think makes him so special?
Well, first of all, he's got a good volleyball IQ, number one. Number two, he's been around the game for so long, he's well diverse at all the skills of the game. So it's not a shock. First of all, he used to play outside a little bit, not often, but a little bit for us. But he's so well diverse at the game. He's got a good arm. He jumps well. He can attack the ball. He can handle the ball, serve, receive. He can serve the ball. But what Beth talks about in regards to the intangible, in terms of the energy and the spirit in which he plays with, because he plays with a lot of passion, a lot of love for the game, that converts over to whatever position he plays, and he's a well-rounded volleyball player.
And Rock mentioned a little bit about the serve and pass battle against that Loyola match. Being a libero, Beth, how do you think we handled Loyola's pressure from the service line? And Colin Mahan definitely had a really good night from the service line for Loyola. Talk about a little bit some of the things we did well in the service and pass game and what we didn't do very well in the service and pass game.
Yeah, well, I think this entire season we've been a little bit streaky in the serve and pass game, right? So Colin Mahan goes back to serve. He gets on a 7-point run. It's hard for us to stop that, right? But there were other times when we got on a little bit of a run, a 2-3 point run. So, we've just been streaky. It just goes up and down, up and down. But when we do pass the ball, we're pretty good
pretty tough to stop.
Yeah.
I think Scott did a really good job in that third set against Loyola to really help us out and get us going, and I think that was part of the difference he made in that third set.
Well, we lost the second set, and it was a pretty competitive, but we lost the second set because of the run Mahan had against us. Close, maybe 10-all or something like that, and then all of a sudden he goes back and he puts together this string, and the next thing you know, you look up at the scoreboard and you're down 6, 7, 8 points, and in Raleigh's score, that's very difficult playing to 25. The same took place in the fourth set too when they went on that run. And serving pass, I mean, we talk about it all the time. People kind of get to the point where it's like, okay, how much can you really talk about serving and passing in volleyball? But at all levels of the game, internationally, to college, to the younger kids, serving and passing is the genesis of the game. If you can't serve and pass and handle the ball, your team is at the mercy of its opponent. And you got to do that at a consistently high level.
Really quickly mention the really good things we did against Loyola in that match. What made us really compete in that match better than maybe we did the next night against Lewis?
In the third set, it was our transition game. We were able to serve the ball efficiently. We touch balls at the net, and then we're able to play defense behind it and transition out of system to score points.
Yeah, I think that the transition game in our offense really revolves around that first contact, and it's something we've struggled with at times all year. And I think it's been something that we went back to a lot in practice. We tried to work on, but if we could have been just a little bit better with that first contact, it would have really made a big difference.
Totally agree. You're the first contact coach. Make it happen.
Well, I think it means from the service line too. First contact can be also the pass, but also the serve. And I think all that.
I watched an NBA game last night. Clippers were playing, and the stud, I forget, DeAndre Jordan, I think his name is, goes to the free throw line, shoots the ball, misses everything. I'm going, how can this possibly? Well, believe it or not, the serve is just like the free throw in basketball. It is a self-induced skill.
And when we do that really, really well, we win. And I think that's been the big key for our team. When we served the ball well this year, we won. When we couldn't bring pressure from the service line, I don't think we had a chance to compete. But that was been the biggest issue.
The serve sets up everything in the game.
Yeah, and if we were, I think that's our biggest problem this year is we're really consistent from the service line, inconsistent, from the service line, and it really made other teams' offenses look really, really good.
Among other things, yes.
So coming back from the break, we'll talk a little bit about the Lewis match on Saturday at Arnie Ball Court. Please come back after the break. See you soon.
I had a perfect vision for my life, but then it got off track. For 10 years, I struggled with flashbacks of an IED explosion, survivor's guilt from combat, an outburst of anger. Finally, I reached out for support, and the chaplains, counselors, and healthcare providers in the military health system brought my life back into focus and set me on a path to success as a Marine, husband, and father. Visit realwarriors.net or call 800-874-2273.
You can't buy a best friend. You can love them, pet them, care for them, whether they want you to or not. You can take a picture, you can jump, yell, you can fly to the moon, travel the world, or just stay in bed. You can't buy a best friend like that, but you can adopt one. 'Cause we're connected.
Welcome back to VolleyDons Weekly. I'm your host, JW Keycafer. With me, we have Ryan Rock Parat to my left and Beth Howard. Coach, how do you think the Lewis match went? We talked about the Loyola match a little bit in that last segment and what we did really well, what we didn't do well. We actually got a set off of Loyola, which was nice. Talk about the Lewis match which you played on Saturday and why maybe we didn't take a set of volleyball like we did against Loyola the night before, or 2 days before.
Well, Lewis is a much better volleyball team than Loyola.
There's a reason why they're number 2 in the conference, and they have some very good players, and they're a very complete team. I don't think Loyola is a good team, but Lewis is a complete volleyball team. All of their players really make a difference in the volleyball court.
Yes, they're a more complete team than Loyola, but they're a much better disciplined team than Loyola. And I think the thing about Lewis is that they serve the ball and pass the ball better than most teams in our conference. There's a reason why they're the 7th best team in the country. But number 2 is the discipline in which they play the game is far superior than anybody else's I've ever seen. And it's very difficult because we played that match. First of all, it was senior night, so a lot of emotion with our 3 graduating seniors. Number 2 is, I played the 3 seniors, so a different setting look with the Gabriel Quinones starting over Michael Keegan. And believe it or not, the second set, we actually had an opportunity to win. We were up 24-23 after a slow first start. Again, another slow first start. And we had an opportunity, and what happened? We served the ball out of the timeout.
On a set point. On our only set point of the night, we served the ball out of bounds.
And you can't make unforced errors to that degree against high caliber, good volleyball teams. And Lewis capitalized. They ended up winning that second set. And so I thought we had an opportunity to compete better. I didn't think we competed as well as we did against Loyola. Part of that is the makeup of the team. I just think Lewis is a much better volleyball team.
I think one thing that Lewis does very, very well is they continually put pressure on you. They don't make a whole ton of errors. When you give them free balls, when you give them down balls, they put those first contacts away. They have 4, their front row is always an option offensively. They always have 3 solid options offensively. Beth, why do you think we were able to control that pressure a little bit better in the second set than we were in the first and the third set?
Well, I thought against Lewis, we absolutely passed the ball better than we did against Loyola, which helped us control our side of the net better. But as Rock said, they're very disciplined compared to Loyola and compared to us. So they kind of just dug the ball and stuck in defense and transition and played the ball back down our throat. So I think at least we passed the ball well, and even though we didn't compete as well, they are absolutely a better disciplined team than us.
Yeah, I think one of the things, we talked about serving and passing in the Loyola match and how that kind of was our detriment. And I think we passed the ball around a 2-3, or at least over a 2-2 in that match against Lewis. And the number you're looking for in a passing situation is a 2.3. So, we were either at that number or just a little bit below. So we were at the number of our goal for passing. It might have just been the service pressure that let us down a little bit. We talked about that missed serve late. But I also think that their ability to control you at the net with their blocking technique. You talked about their defensive ability to play balls in the air, but also their blocking technique, their ability to block balls. They just play a consistent style of volleyball across the line, and they don't ever deviate from that consistent play. So, Rock, talk about a little bit about how we had troubles dealing with that, maybe inconsistency from our end, or just really good consistency from their end.
Well, when you practice against it every day, that kind of pressure from the service line, you get used to it or are accustomed to it. We don't do that in our practice. We have guys with good arms, but they can't serve the ball to that type of velocity like we see, so you don't see that constantly on a daily basis. That's number 1. Number 2 is the fact that even though we passed the ball better against Lewis, the same serve came your way for our passers to get in a groove. Loyola mixed it up with topspin and jump float serves.
Yeah.
Lewis is all topspin.
They're all jump servers.
So you just sit back there and let the ball come to you, put your forearms out, and get the ball somewhere into target, and you're okay. So that kind of is misconstrued a little bit. Number 2, the discipline factor you talk about at the net. Their middles did a great job, I thought, Lewis, tracking our middles all over the place, and their lateral movement is superb. That they're able to get back out to where they want to go, make a good block, touch balls, and there's discipline behind that to turn and make plays. For us, I didn't think we did a good job targeting one specific guy. I thought our serving was sporadic all over the place. And number 2 is I thought I thought Alex Dickman actually played very well for us offensively, I think, if I remember.
No, that night he did not. Against Loyola he did.
But we did not get that production, on the right side there. And that kind of made us predictable because we did not get any backs.
We were super predictable in that Lewis match because we had no production out of that opposite spot. Dickman finishing negative, and we actually had 0 production out of the second left side spot as Colton Stone was negative through 2 sets. He came out. Scott McNerney came back into the game. He played libero for the first 2 sets as a senior. He came into the game as a left side in the third set. And he, I think, hit 0 or maybe 100. So our production on the pins was just not good. And when you pass a 2.2, 2.3, your production on the pins should be absolutely stellar because you should be able to get attacks out of the middle. And I thought Richie did a pretty good job attacking the ball all weekend, and I think Graydon struggled a little bit offensively, but he also had a decent night, I think, against Lewis. I might be wrong on that.
I think he started off well and then kind of
we really run it only through Nick Smalter in that Lewis match, and Nick Smalter had a fantastic match offensively for the last match of his career, hitting 360, but it just wasn't enough because the guys around him couldn't put together a good enough match offensively.
Well, and the other thing, too, I thought, which was really indicating about our play, is that we did not play backcourt defense. We had opportunities to dig balls. I mean, we were outdug, I think, -11, -12 overall in the stat sheet. We did not play defense. We did not give ourselves opportunities to turn balls, and that frustrates your opponent when you're able to play defense and then get good quality swings at that, and we were not able to do that at all.
Beth, being a libero at IPY, what do you think? How do you think we could change that, or what do you think went wrong in that match compared to some other matches when we have been out digging people a lot this year?
Yeah. Well, I think that the block has a lot to do with it, because if the block is inconsistent right off the bat, it's hard for your backcourt defenders to play defense behind it. So I think in some other matches this year, we put up a pretty good solid block, so our defenders were able to move around it and dig balls, which is why we probably outdug people.
Yeah.
But, you know, like we said before, they just out-disciplined us, period. We were not disciplined in our defensive positions on our side, even though the block was not very good on our side. We didn't have our feet stopped. We weren't in base to read, stuff like that. So it's just they out-disciplined us.
Yeah, it starts with your feet, and I think our ability, or inability, excuse me, to keep our feet stopped on the point of contact from the hitter didn't allow us to get our hands and our arms in the right position to make defensive plays, and we really definitely struggled from that end on the defensive side of the ball. And again, going back to serve and passing, it started with our serve and our inability to get them out of system with our serve. But we definitely did not have a good defensive night like we normally have from both a blocking standpoint and the defensive standpoint in the backcourt. Coach Rock, preview a little bit of the postseason tournament here. Unfortunately, as we lost that match against Lewis in 3 sets and Quincy won their match against Ohio State in 4 sets, we didn't make the conference tournament. So talk a little bit about the conference standings and maybe our inability to get in there, or why maybe we weren't able to get in the playoffs this year.
Quincy taking a set off Ohio State went undefeated in our conference, but with Quincy taking that set, it came down to tiebreakers because both teams finished 2-14 in the conference. And due to tiebreakers, and they used points and then points for, points against, and then the set differential, and they ended up winning the set differential. I think it was 0.285 to 0.28.
It was like
micro
thousandths of a point.
Yeah. And we have nothing or no one to blame but ourselves because we had opportunities throughout the course of the year to either win sets or win matches, and we did not do that. Part of that, obviously, injuries to Tony Price and Pelican Vargas. But when you take a look at our postseason, Ohio State as the #1 seed, Lewis is the 2 seed, Grand Canyon the 3 seed, and Ball State ends up playing the 4 seed. And there are some interesting matches in the first round. We think Ohio State will cruise past Quincy. That probably most likely will happen. Lewis will probably cruise by Lindenwood. But the matchup with McHenry going to Grand Canyon is going to be a very, very interesting matchup because of the fact of McHenry's athleticism, and in particular in the middle and on the pins. And if you want to attack the Grand Canyon team, Antelopes, you want to attack them in the middle, and they're able to do that. And they're going to become really jumpy where can you worry about Malik Walker at the opposite spot? The question is, can McHenry serve to the level they need to beat Grand Canyon at home? I don't know about that.
In the last match?
Loyola Ball State. And that has become an unbelievable rival.
Could be a good match.
Yeah.
And it's in Muncie, and Ball State just smoked them at home.
Yeah, and the interesting part about that is they both ended up winning a match in 3 sets. So it's kind of been a big head-to-head matchup. Both teams played well in both situations.
And I'm kind of leaning towards right now. If I had to pick, I'm kind of leaning towards Ball State. I think they got a little bit
with that win in Muncie last week. It's going to be a big deal. So coming on up next, we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming season next year and preview what we're going to look like. Hopefully a little bit for the Fort Wayne men's volleyball team. Come on back after the break.
17 years ago, when I decided to become a mentor, that I was assigned to Christina. When she was in the 1st grade, she was a shy little girl, not able to smile much.
Elaine showed there were people out there to help me and guide me through life. When Elaine let me read her diary, I didn't even realize how important I was to her. And now that I'm mentoring, I feel that importance, and I can spread those same values to the girls I mentor.
Be someone who matters to someone who matters.
My dad was in the Air Force for 26 years. When I was applying for scholarships, we came across Thanks USA, which helps military children earn scholarships towards whatever university they want.
Education gives you the chance to find the nexus between your unique passions and gifts and the needs of the world around you.
You realize that ripple effect, that you give them an education and they're going to take it and run.
Welcome back, everybody, to the VolleyDons Weekly. Once again, we're with head coach Ryan Rock-Parat and assistant coach Beth Howard, as well as myself, assistant coach J.W. Kiekefer. A quick thank you to our last group of sponsors, IAB Bank, Indiana Physical Therapy, Molten, ONE, and Pizza Hut. So we talked a little bit about this in the second segment, about how we're going to preview our team for next year, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting for us moving forward into the fall, through the summer, to see how some of these guys continue to develop, right? We've talked previously about how young our team is and their ability to develop and how that was going to impact our team. So how do you think that went this year with some development from a bunch of players, coach, and who did you like and who do you think you wanted a little bit more from?
Well, it's going to be very interesting next year because you're not going to be able to say how young we are anymore. So you're not going to be.
You're right. I'm not going to be
using that excuse about how
juniors next year. It's not an excuse. It really shouldn't have been an excuse this year.
Yeah.
But
I never used that excuse. I mean, you used it.
I don't think I use it as an excuse. I think it's just sometimes a reality of the situation that we'd make. And by the end of the year, we were making some unfortunate plays, and it wasn't because of youth anymore, just because we weren't thinking before we played. But in the beginning of the season, I think that was part of it.
I think there's a big difference between youth and inexperience. I can say inexperience playing at this level against the other teams in terms of matches and so forth.
Well, don't those go hand in hand? No. When you're youthful, you usually don't have a lot of experience.
No, because individuals like Pellegrin Vargas, who's played volleyball his entire life, has lots of experience, and he's young. Guys that have been around the sport, Scott McNerney, who grew up in a volleyball family, he may be young, I guess, by age, but he's got a lot of volleyball experience. So that's kind of misleading. I'm almost a false equivalency that youth and inexperience go hand in hand. Now, with that said, I think we had some interesting growths on our team. I thought guys like Richie Dietrich, Alex Dickman, Colton Stone, I thought were individuals that really stood out in terms of where they came from a year ago to where they were this year. Guys that you did not see much of on the volleyball court, Sam Groves, I thought did a really nice job trying to increase his level of skill for us. But with all that said, and we do definitely need the skill part to improve, and we got to get better in some key areas. I think the intangibles come in. I think our work ethic has got to get better. I think our leadership standpoint has got to get better. I think obviously if we can stay healthy, we have an opportunity to be a top 4 or 5 team in our MIVA conference. And so it all depends on what the guys do now in the offseason leading up until what we do in the fall.
Beth, what would you add to that about some players who've developed a lot this year and have started to kind of take that next step forward?
Yeah, I thought we saw a little bit from Kyle Fitzgerald that maybe we didn't see last year. He came into some roles and stepped up and did some good things for us, got some block touches. I think Pele made strides throughout the year, and I think next year he's going to come back and play a major role and maybe try and step up and be the stud on the team. Yeah, I thought Richie and Alex did a great job of coming along. I thought Michael Keegan made strides in the leadership aspect of trying to lead the team, being the setter. Yeah, Jack made some pretty good improvements in the back row. No more happy feet, hopefully, coming next year.
Hopefully we can limit that next year.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought there were some guys that made a lot of improvements. I think someone I wanted to see a little bit more from was Colton Stone. I thought he made strides, as Rock said, but at the same time, he never had a game where I was like, yes, he played really well that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not really like a breakout performance. So he was one guy I kind of wanted to see a little bit more from. Hopefully next year, moving to the right or playing the out, he will step up.
Take that
role.
next step.
Yeah.
Coach, how do you think, talking about those injuries, how do you think Tony Price and Pellegrin Vargas come back from their season-ending injuries, if you will. How do you think those two players fit into the team next year, and how do you think they're going to perform next year?
Well, I think their impact on our team is tremendous because they're two of the best offensive players that we have on our team. That's number one. Number two is I also think what it does is it puts people in their natural positions. Colton Stone played out of position, I think, this year by playing the left
I would
side.
agree with
He's
that.
not a ball handler. He needs to go to the right side, compete with Alex Dickman at the opposite spot. And I think Tony and Pellegrin can work in sync. And the other big thing that I think bringing those two guys back next year is that I think that'll increase the play of Michael Keegan. Because I think when you have two individuals on the pins who can do things out of system in particular, but in system specifically, I think that'll breed confidence in Michael Keegan in order to run our volleyball team.
Beth, you talked a little bit about this year. At some points, losing was contagious, and winning is contagious too. How do we change that narrative from being losing is contagious to winning being contagious?
Yeah, well, I think it starts in practice. I think the guys have to come in every day and, think they're playing championship level volleyball against each other. It all starts with that. It's a culture thing. It has to start with us as coaches. So I think if we kind of set the standard from day one in the fall, like we are going to compete 100% every day for an hour and a half or however long, hopefully that'll start to breed and get inside the guys, and hopefully they want to do it themselves too.
Who are you looking for to bring that to our volleyball team? Obviously, like you said, the coaches need to start that motto, but who's the player on the volleyball team that starts that for us from the volleyball court?
I think maybe Pellegrin, maybe Tony Price. Ultimately, I think the players look to Michael Keegan because he's the setter on the team. That's just natural.
Mm-hmm.
He touches the ball every play, no matter what. So I think kind of those three guys should be the ones to really step up and get everybody else on board.
Coach, same question to you. Who's the guy on our volleyball team to move this team forward and make winning being contagious? Make winning a habit, if you will.
You're not going to like my answer.
I will go ahead and share it with the public here.
I don't think there is one.
Okay, why is that? Elaborate a little bit.
And here's why. And that's not something to say that's derogatory. I don't think there is one because I don't think there can be one. I think it needs to be a collective group of individuals. Because we don't have a complete player. We don't have a good all-around player. We don't have a Russell Westbrook who can do it all. We have individuals that are good at specific things. And we're still at a young enough, as you say, I say inexperienced enough level, where we need to carry on other people's shoulders or backs. And I think it's got to be a collective group. I think through good work ethic, like Bethany just talked about, and coming to the gym and thinking about competing at a championship level, I think it's got to become contagious. I think the passion to play with the game and the love to play with the game has to be contagious. But I don't think one person can necessarily carry this group to where it needs to be. I think it needs to be 4, 5. It'd be great if it was all 16 players, but that's usually not the case. But it needs to be a sum of individuals, a group of individuals who say, look, we've gone through this 2-year process. We're moving in the right direction. I know our record doesn't show it, but we're much better than what we were a year ago. We can be even better provided we buy in. Mm-hmm. Buy into the staff, buy into ourselves, buy into the workout, all this stuff, and then off we go. We do it that way collectively, it could happen.
Well, I want to say a quick thank you to Beth Howard for being our graduate assistant coach this year. She's graduating in December, so unfortunately this is the one and only time you get to see her on VolleyDons Weekly. We want to thank her for everything she's done. She's been an amazing help to our staff, an amazing addition to our staff, and has pushed some of our players to do some really, really good things this year, so thank you to her for that. Thank you to all of you for tuning in, and thank you to CTV for having us. For everybody here at VolleyDons Weekly, for Beth Howard, for head coach Ryan Rock-Parat, and for myself, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next year. Go Dons.